You've interviewed a lot of people and you have a really powerful mind. You have a good read on people. So how do you know when you're sitting across from a psychopath?
I wouldn't say that I do know. In normal social circumstances, we have evolved mechanisms to keep people like that under control. Let's say that you and I have a series of interactions and you screw me over once. I'm not going to forget that. Now, I might not write you off because of the one time. But if it happens 3 times, it's like, we're not going to play together anymore. And in normal times, most of our social networks are connected and interacting. So like if you ripped me off 3 times and I noted that, I'm going to tell everybody I know, and they're going to tell everybody they know, and soon everyone will know, and that's the end of your tricks. But that assumes that we know who you are and we're in continual communication. Well, all of that's gone online. So anonymity does that, and so does the amplification of emotional intensity by the social media platforms and their algorithms. I think what we're doing, this is happening on Twitter continually, is we're giving the 5% of psychopaths a radically disproportionate voice. And what they're doing is there's a bunch of them on the left, and they're all, we're so compassionate. And there's a bunch of them on the right, and at the moment they're all, we're so Christian and free speech oriented. It's like, no, you're not. You're a narcissistic psychopaths, and that's your camouflage. And you hide behind your anonymity, and you use fractious and divisive language to attract fools and to elevate your social status and your clout. And not only that, to gain, what would you say, satisfaction for your sadistic impulses.
See, the problem is it's hard to tell who is the psychopath and who is a heterodox truth seeker.
Yeah, well, if you were charitable about Tucker Carlson's recent interview, you'd say that was exactly the conundrum he faced. And it is hard. Like, I've thought about, for example, interviewing Andrew Tate. And I thought, I don't think so. And then I thought, why? I figured, it's not obvious to me at all that he wouldn't charm me. So I knew this guy, Robert Hare. Robert Hare was the world's foremost authority on psychopathy. He established the field of clinical analysis of psychopathic behavior. And Hare was a pretty agreeable guy. So, you know, he would give people the benefit of the doubt. And he interviewed hundreds of serious psychopaths, like imprisoned violent offenders. And he told me in one of our conversations that every time he sat down with a violent offender psychopath, and he had a measure for psychopathy that was a clinical checklist, so he could identify the psychopaths from just the, say, run-of-the-mill criminals. Every time he sat down with them, they pulled the wool over his eyes. And it wasn't, he videotaped the interviews. And it wasn't until later when he was reviewing the videos that he could see what they were doing. But in person, their tricks were more sophisticated than his detection ability.
Well, okay, this is fascinating because, again, you're a great interviewer. I would love it if you interviewed somebody like Putin. So this idea that you are a fool in the face of psychopathy, it just doesn't jive with me.
I'm an agreeable guy. That's the problem. I'll give people the benefit of the doubt.
Right. But that's good because the way you reveal psychopathy is by being agreeable, not weak, but seeking with empathy to understand the other person. And in the details, in the little nuanced ways that they struggle with questions, the psychopathy is revealed. So we're kind of, just to separate the two things. So one, overrepresentation of psychopathy online with anonymity, that's a serious, fascinating problem. But in the interview, one-on-one, I don't know if the job of a human being in conversation is to not talk to psychopaths, but to talk, I mean, like, how would you interview Hitler?
Well, I've had very difficult clinical interviews with people in my clinical practice. And
so how do you approach that?
Well, I really probably approach that the way I approach most conversations. And it's something like, I'm going to assume that you're playing a straight game, but I'm going to watch. And if you throw the odd crooked maneuver in, then I'll note it. And after you do it 3 times, I'll think, okay, I see. I thought we were playing one game, but we're actually playing another one. And if I'm smart enough to pick that up, That usually works out quite successfully for me, but I'm not always smart enough to pick that up.
But see, here's the nice thing. There's the one-on-one conversation that's not recorded is different than one that's listened by a lot of people, because I would venture to, I trust the intelligence of the viewer and the listener
right,
to detect even better than you.
Yes, and I think that's true, by the way.